Hello and welcome back to the Son of the Morning Comics channel. We're going to do another indie comic review here. What we're looking at in this video is The Führer and the Tramp, issue number 1 by Sean McCardle, Dexter Wee, and John Judy. This coming from Source Point Press. It's a 5-issue limited series. I was sort of struck by it immediately. I'm a huge fan of Charlie Chaplin's stuff, or at least some of his stuff. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Great Dictator from 1940. And in that movie, he plays a character who is supposed to be Adolf Hitler. The character's name is actually Adenoid Hinkle, but great movie, starring Charlie Chaplin and Paulette Goddard, and just thought that it was really fantastic. And when I see something like this, it catches my eye. I gotta check it out. So let's open her up. So the story here begins, and they even say here that although based on fact, the work is part fiction and events are largely, if not entirely, inventions of the author's imagination. So we know that there's going to be some creative license here, but that's just fine. The story starts off in Berlin in 1939, and I guess they're going to be showing Leni Riefenstahl's Olympia movie, which I think was actually from 1938, but I could be wrong about that. But wasn't her first Nazi propaganda film. She'd already made Triumph of the Will in 1935, and I believe there was another one in there as well. Now we see somebody who's coming to go to the show and is stopped for being a Jew, and as he gets scared and runs off, and unfortunately the person who is being chased and is thought to be a Jew is Charlie Chaplin. So we got Chapter 1, Third Reich Follies. So I have to say, I really enjoy the first part of it here, because they just did a really good job of making a very Chaplin-esque sort of scene where he's running around, fumbling around. The officer is chasing him, and he wants to know why he's not wearing his star. He's fumbling around, as you can see here. Does make his way into the theater somehow, is hiding, and as he's hiding, he, falls down, pulls things down, and then, sandbags fall on the soldier, so he magically, in slapstick way gets out of that. And so here we can see they're watching the Olympia movie. We have Hitler with Leni Riefenstahl, and then, the curtain gets closed because of Charlie's ridiculousness, and he's fumbling around some more here. Now there's more soldiers after him. They're climbing up ladders. They're actually, he's touching lights that are hot, then grabs it and smacks them in the head with it. A lot of slapstick. Jumps on one of these, another one of these ropes, and, pulls down the curtain. The curtain opens, which makes Mr. Hitler there happy, until Charlie Chaplin comes crashing through the screen. At which point he, goes and sits down and has some of Hitler's popcorn, has a sip of his drink, and you can see he's very, very proud of himself there, which he should be in this scenario. Now, what I found a little strange when I started reading this, and although I was enjoying the scenes and the panels, is that this is not what Charlie Chaplin actually looks like. Was his in character sort of looked like. But that does sort of get addressed here when they're back in Los Angeles. They're at the Coconut Grove, living it up in Hollywood, and Charlie gets called over, and they're having like a conversation here. He's introducing his brother, talking about Errol. He's a director, and we have a lovely lady from Berlin at the party as well. So they're asking him all about, we heard about the stuff out there. You see, if that happened, he's, it was all a big misunderstanding. Everything is a big misunderstanding. And he sort of says that, he wanted to give everyone a little thrill by showing up in character, but he unfortunately was mistaken as someone of the Jewish persuasion. So this, they're having a problem here, and there's a little discussion, and this other director here is talking about the way that the Jewish people are being treated, and do you actually believe that this is happening? And Charlie, of course, gets very upset about it, and saying that the Jewish people aren't a problem, that they're under very, very difficult circumstances right now, and that he's going to make his next movie is going to be to take down Hitler. Now, we have and so as Charlie Chaplin and Errol Flynn are arguing about this stuff, Hedy Lamarr says she's feeling unwell suddenly, and she's gonna retire to her room, and she says, "My usual room, I suppose, 10:35, good night, gentlemen." And I suppose that this was a code that Charlie got, and he shows up. Now, of course, Charlie Chaplin thinks that he is going up to this room to have some fun with Hedy Lamarr. Unfortunately for Charlie, he starts disrobing, and she is not quite in the mood, it would seem, as he gets himself right down to his naked, right down to his birthday suit. We have a figure in the dark that says, "My apologies, Mr. Chaplin. Please believe me, Miss Lamarr and I never would have lured you here if it wasn't of the utmost importance." And so then the lights get turned on, and it's FDR. It's actually a very, very good drawing of FDR. That's something I was going to comment on afterwards, is the art in this book is very, very, very good. And the quality of the book itself is really, really good. So Charlie's obviously a little shocked to see the president there. They have this little back and forth where it's same thing. Got that sort of Charlie Chaplin slapstick thing going on where FDR is trying to talk to him, and Charlie just keeps sort of interrupting him, kind of being a little bit of a fool. And, finally tells him, you can put your clothes on. And so he, putting his clothes on, knocks FDR out of his wheelchair. He asks Hedy Lamarr to help him up. She does. At which point, they talking about how he needs Charlie to make a movie, a response to the films of Leni Riefenstahl. And Chaplin says, I was just talking about it. That's a great idea. Can I get funding from you, from the government? And then FDR says that's one thing they can't do. They have to keep the politics out of it, but the movie has to get made. You'll do what you can, and you'll get it done. He has faith in him, and he's telling him he has to do it, but telling him he's not going to help him at all. He says, "I'm overwhelmed by your support, sir." Think that that's pretty funny, but nevertheless, we know that Charlie is going to, from this point, go and make the movie, and it says to be continued. One thing I really liked about this, too, is that the annotations, something that the author put in here that I think was really cool, especially when you're interested in this type of story, in the history behind this story, which I am. I have half of my family were spawns from Holocaust survivors, so it has a little bit of meaning for me. And he sort of goes through a lot of on each page the reasoning for why things were written, or why the illustrations were the way they were, and I think that that's just really cool. Like I said, the overall quality of the book is second to none. The quality of the pages is really great. The art is beautiful throughout. I've got no complaints about this one. None at all. None whatsoever. Highly recommend the Führer and the Tramp issue 1. And hopefully we'll get an issue number 2 and we'll be able to review that one for you as well. So thank you for joining me here on the Son of the Morning Comics channel. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave some comments, hit the notification bell, and you can visit me over at Son of the Morning 7 over on Twitter, and have yourself a lovely day.